This is Jonathan Miller, the General Counsel of the U.S. Hemp Roundtable, and really excited to have with us today one of the true heroes of the hemp industry, Representative Morgan Griffith, Republican from Virginia. Representative Griffith, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, glad to be with you today.
So before we get into your bill, you have been a champion of hemp for several years. You're one of the OG original supporters of the hemp movement that started about half a decade back. Can you explain what brought you to support hemp so strongly for the folks in your district?
Well, and it's a long path, but folks need to know that I'm an amateur historian. My college degree was in history before I went off to law school. And hemp has been, in the past, it was an important product in my region. My part of Virginia can't grow tobacco, or parts of it can't. We grow tobacco in my district for smoking in south side part of my district. We grow tobacco for chewing in the deep southwest part of my district, up a little bit higher in the mountains. But historically, the area that I grew up in the Roanoke Valley and the New River Valley of Virginia, they produced a lot of hemp for making rope and other products, but mostly rope. And it was the #1 cash crop in 1776 for the folks there. So that was part of the interest. And then the fact is, if you're growing hemp, it does not have the THC. And this is why I've always been like, yeah, what's the big deal? Why are we getting all worked up over this? And so many people have. As a part of that, in the late 90s, I started looking at medicinal marijuana, not to make you feel good about, just life in general or whatever, but truly for people that had medical problems. And it appears to me, and I've been working on that too, but it appears to me that marijuana has some real potential medicinally. We use all kinds of nasty things like opiates, but we're not allowed to even research marijuana. So all of that combined for me to recognize that if entrepreneurs want to take the risk and grow hemp, and there are a lot of risks in growing hemp that the government, first at the state level and the federal level, ought to be getting out of the way and allowing people to grow the hemp. It does not have the quantities of THC for anybody to get high. In fact, one of the producers in my district had to put up a sign because his facility is close to the interstate. And he had to put up a sign that basically said, you're not going to get high, because somebody went in and stole a couple of his plants, probably pulled off the interstate and jumped the fence, thinking they were going to get some kind of a buzz. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is products that can be used in all kinds of manufacturing concerns. And then this bill obviously deals with supplements. And, hemp has been around for a long time. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence, a lot of historical evidence that it may have some benefits. And as long as it doesn't have the THC at any appreciable amount, there is nothing in my opinion, for the FDA to be too concerned about out there. So that's why Kurt Schrader drafted up a bill. I amended it a little bit, and then we introduced it.
Well, let's talk about that bill. It's HR 8179, which is the Hemp and Hemp-Derived CBD Consumer Protection and Market Stabilization Act. This is a bill that is strongly supported by the hemp and dietary supplement industry. Why don't you kind of give a bit of a summary of the bill and what you hope it accomplishes?
Well, and what we hope it will accomplish is it will allow more products to come to market. That if we're talking about hemp products, we're talking about supplements, that will get rid of some of those regulatory barriers. I'm looking here at it now. It's all of 2 1/3 pages, but there's been a real resistance in Washington D.C., both in Congress and in the agencies for the last 80, 90 years. And so we're trying to cut through some of that red tape, and that's the concept here, is to make it easier to be able to use hemp products. And every person and their personal chemistry in their body is a little bit different. Some people may find benefit from taking a supplement and some may not, but that's for an individual to decide, not for the government to prohibit it.
Yeah, and one of the great things about your bill is that it will ensure that products that are being sold are appropriately labeled and tested, because there's so many products out there that call themselves CBD, might not be CBD, might have bad um, uh, heavy metals in them. So what's been your experience with folks in your district in terms of CBD products and their concerns about, what's actually, what am I actually buying?
Yeah, I think there is some concern in that regard, and people want to know they're getting a safe product. There's also a lot of excitement about growing it because it was a historical crop for our area, dating back to the time of the American Revolution and before. People are really excited about it, and a lot of conservative farmers are getting into this market. So it's, you know, there are multiple concerns in the district that we should be allowing more of this, both from a product that can be used and also as a supplement. And look, we want to make sure it's safe, and we want to make sure we're not inundated with foreign products that don't meet the criteria, as you said, heavy metals, et cetera. We want to make sure that these products are safe, but at the same time, want to get rid of some of the impediments that are in the way because of 90 years of thinking that somehow this was the worst plant on the planet.
You mentioned a lot of conservative farmers out there that are getting into this. You are a conservative Republican.
Yes.
Kurt Schrader, who is your co-sponsor, is a liberal Democrat. We've been told that those two kinds of folks don't work together quite so well these days. What's the exception here? Why do you think this has become such a bipartisan issue?
Well, I think if you follow the science, I mean, I think that's, people always talk about follow the science, and Democrats sometimes will say that us conservative Republicans should follow the science. I often say to them, you should follow the science. But when we do follow the science, you end up with a bill like this, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with using hemp products. There's nothing wrong. And I should tell the folks who may be watching this that I don't drink alcohol, and I've never smoked a marijuana cigarette. And yet I early on, started in 1998 working on medicinal marijuana in the state legislature, because if you follow the science, I think there's some science that says that may be a helpful product. I think the science says that if there's no significant amount of THC, there is no danger to the public. Now, there may be some false claims. That's something that, we might have to look at. And there may be, as you said, there may be a product that has some kind of a contaminant in it. We may have to take a look at that. But we do have to get past this prejudice that there is, inherently something wrong with the hemp product, and humans ingesting hemp as a supplement or using it for whatever product that might be out there, or using the oil. And I think people have gotten to that point in my district and across the country where, there's still a lot of concern about the THC, but when you're not talking about a THC-laden product, it's just another agricultural product that is good for the economy of the United States. And some people who produce and manufacture products from it will be winners, and some will be losers. That's the way the economy works. But we ought not have it being made a decision that nobody can get into it by the federal government.
So we have about 50,000, 60,000 hemp supporters on our lists, our email lists, our social media. And what we're trying to do right now is to engage them to contact their congressman and congresswoman and ask them to co-sponsor your bill. We've got on our website a portal at hempsupporter.com that allows people to figure out if they don't even know who their congressperson is, who they are, and get their email address, send them an email. Can you talk about how important that is in terms of, do you all pay attention to the emails and phone calls that you get from your constituents?
Well, we certainly pay attention, but I will tell you, and this is a cautionary tale for a lot of folks. Sometimes we get inundated with a particular campaign where they're saying, send this particular message to your congressman and congresswoman. Those carry less weight, because sometimes what happens is, and y'all probably aren't doing this, but sometimes people call up and say, press 1 if you want to send a message. and they press one. If you make it just a little bit personal, uh, and you send it to your congressman or your congresswoman, and it's a little bit different, the message can be the same. We want you to co-sponsor this. Let me tell you why. I found this product helpful, or I'm raising this product, or I'm really interested in the science on this. Whatever is personal to your viewers, to your subscribers, if they send something with just a little bit of a twist in it, at least in our office, that carries more weight because we know it's not somebody who just got a phone call and pressed one on an auto dial. And sometimes it's hard to tell unless you get 50 of the same message. Then okay, it's an auto dial. And we do pay attention to those, because if we get 250, that makes a difference. But somebody who writes us with something that's clearly a little bit of a personal note makes a big difference in the amount of attention that my team brings to it. And if you know the congressman or congresswoman, say, please let Congressman Morgan know that I met him at the Tazewell County Fair last year. That's more likely to actually get to me, because I got a couple staff members here. We receive on average, 100, 150 communications a day. Yeah. And on big days, or when there's some issue going, more than that. But we average about 100, 150 just on a generic weekday. You get to some issue that's really hopping, we may get 250, 300 messages. And when that happens, obviously I don't see every one of those messages. I get them clumped. But if somebody says, this person says they met you at the Tazewell County Fair, my team's probably going to bring that to me. Is there anything special you want to put in the response back? And it just raises the awareness for the individual congressman or woman.
No, that's a great point. We ask folks to personalize their emails for that very reason, and encourage them to do so. So please follow that. And note that many of your congresspeople are coming back home in October and asking you to send them back for another 2 years. And now in this COVID era, you might not have as much chance to interact with them personally as before, but you can call their staff office, their campaign, et cetera.
Absolutely. And I would say this too, if you've got a group of 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 who wants 15 minutes, and you're much more likely to get a 15-minute appointment, and you can do it in the morning or in the evening, and you've got some flexibility on time. Most of us are looking for things to do, whether it be campaign or official, because we can't go. They're not having the Tazewell County Fair this year. They're not doing the street festivals that they would normally do. And so a lot of your elected officials are looking for an opportunity to interact with constituents. And you may actually be able to do a Zoom meeting with 15 or 20 people. If you've got that many in a cluster that you can put together, somebody might be willing to do one of the candidates or one of the incumbents might be willing to do a quick 15-minute Zoom meeting, have a couple people tell personal stories, ask for their support. That may work very well. Normally we're traveling. That's not happening as much. It is beginning to happen, but not as much as usual.
Great. Well, this has been terrific. Anything you want to share with our hemp supporters before you get back to the important business of Congress?
Well, I would just say that, anytime there's an issue, don't hesitate to let your congressman or woman know how you feel. And you may not agree, and you're not going to agree on 100% of the issues with any individual, but recognize that, we're all human beings. So conservative Republicans shouldn't say that, all liberal Democrats are evil. Kurt's a nice guy. I'm not endorsing him because we don't agree politically, but he's a good man. And likewise, the liberal Democrats shouldn't go out and say that, all conservative Republicans are evil. We just have a disagreement. And I would hope that people would recognize that. And as we move forward as a nation, that we recognize that we have a diversity of opinion. That's okay. It's the United States of America.
That's a great message to end on. Congressman Griffith, thanks so much for joining us, but more importantly, thanks so much for your leadership on HR 8179. And again, if you're listening out there, you want to support, go to hempsupporter.com. We make it really easy for you to send a message to your congressman or congresswoman to get them to support the Griffith-Schrader bill that would help make sure that CBD will be available as a dietary supplement across the country. Congressman Griffith, thanks so much.
Thank you.